She never made it home. Not really. Not for 15 years. On New Year's Eve, in the last hour of the year 2000, a 23-year-old woman clocked out of a waitressing shift and started walking the same mile she'd walked 1,000 times before. Streets she knew by heart. A porch light her mother always left burning. A house 2 blocks away where her parents were waiting with party hats and sparkling cider, ready to ring in a new year together. She never arrived. By the time the clock struck 12, by the time fireworks lit up the sky over her hometown, Lauren Hayes had vanished, swallowed by 4 quiet blocks of a town where everybody knew everybody, and strangers never got the chance to be strange. What happened to her would stay buried for 15 years. And when the truth finally surfaced, it wouldn't come from a detective, or confession, or body. It would come from a stranger's voice on the internet, and a mother who refused to stop listening. This is the story of Bridgewater, Texas. Population 6,800. The kind of place where the high school football stadium seats more people than actually live in town. Where Main Street has a hardware store, a diner, a drugstore, and not much else. Where the kids who leave for college don't come back, and the ones who stay because leaving feels like too big a leap. Lauren Hayes was trying to figure out which one she was going to be. She'd graduated from Texas State the spring before with a degree in elementary education, and after a summer of applications and interviews, she landed the job she'd spent 4 years chasing, 2nd grade teacher at Bridgewater Elementary. Her own classroom, her own students, her own bulletin boards to fill with construction paper sons and spelling words. But a teacher's salary in the year 2000 didn't stretch the way she'd hoped. After taxes, after student loans, after car insurance and gas, there wasn't enough left to rent so much as a studio apartment. So Lauren moved back into her childhood bedroom, posters from high school still taped to the walls, and picked up a second job waiting tables at the roadside diner on Main Street most evenings after school let out. Her parents, Margaret and Tom, didn't mind having her home. Margaret was a school secretary with kind eyes and a patient smile. Tom had spent 25 years on the Bridgewater police force before retiring into a quieter job running security at the high school. The kind of man who stayed calm because he'd learned, the hard way, exactly how fast things could go wrong. They had routines. Sunday dinners after church. Friday movie nights. Crossword puzzles on Saturday mornings. Lauren had started talking about getting her own place by spring, once she'd saved enough. Margaret secretly hoped she'd wait a little longer. She had no idea how little time was left. December 31st started like any other Sunday. Church, lunch, small talk about the year ahead. Lauren had the evening shift, 4 to 10, covering for a co-worker who wanted the night off. Margaret planned something small at home. Just the 3 of them, the television, the countdown, a toast with cider instead of champagne. Lauren promised she'd be back by 10:15. At the latest. It was a promise she meant to keep. And for a while, everything about that night felt completely, achingly normal. Right up until a man walked into the diner, sat down at the counter, and ordered coffee and pie, just like he always did. Except this time, when Lauren set the plate down in front of him, his hand brushed against hers. And it wasn't an accident. She'd seen him before, twice, maybe 3 times over the past month. Always the counter, always coffee and pie, always exact change, counted out to the penny, like he didn't want to leave behind anything that might be remembered. He never made small talk, never smiled. But something about the way his eyes tracked her across the diner floor made the hair on Lauren's arms stand up. She mentioned it to Rita, the older waitress who'd worked that counter for 20 years and had a story for every regular who ever walked through the door. Rita just shrugged it off. Probably lonely, probably harmless. Half the regulars were a little strange, that's what made them regulars. But then came the touch. Deliberate. Lingering half a second too long, along with a look that held hers in a way that made her stomach drop. Lauren walked straight to the back room, told herself she was overreacting, tired, on edge because it was New Year's Eve and she just wanted her shift to end. When she came back out, the man was gone. Exact change on the counter, like he'd never been there at all. By 9:50, the diner had emptied out, everyone racing home to their parties before midnight. Rita told her to head out early, she'd handle the close. Lauren didn't argue twice. She changed out of her uniform, grabbed her purse, and stepped out into the cold, electric hum of a small town on the edge of a new year. Main Street was still alive, cars rolling past, music drifting from open windows, strangers calling out Happy New Year to nobody in particular. It felt safe, familiar. She'd walked this route home hundreds of times. She knew every crack in the sidewalk, every dog that barked at her from behind a fence. Then she turned onto Oak Street, quieter, dimmer, houses set back from the road, and everything changed. Footsteps. Behind her. Not unusual on a night like this, except something made her glance back anyway. A figure, maybe 20 feet behind, dark jacket, hands buried in his pockets, face lost in the gap between streetlights. She picked up her pace. The footsteps matched her, step for step. She told herself it was nothing. Told herself this was Bridgewater. Nothing happened here. But the distance behind her never changed. Never closed. Never fell back. 20 feet, exactly, block after block, like something out of a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. She cut onto Elm Street, taking the longer way, sticking to roads with more houses, more lights, more chances someone might see. The footsteps turned with her. 4 blocks from home. Her hand tightened around her purse strap. Somewhere inside it was a small canister of pepper spray her father had given her the day she started working nights. A father's quiet way of saying be careful without ever having to say the words out loud. Maple Street. 3 blocks. The footsteps stayed with her, patient, unhurried, like whoever it was already knew exactly how this was going to end. Cedar Lane. 2 blocks. She could see the porch lights now, including the one her mother left burning every single night, a small yellow beacon guiding her home. Lauren was almost running. 1 block left. Her keys were already in her hand, cutting into her palm. Her house came into view, and that's when the footsteps behind her suddenly quickened. She broke into a full run. She made it 10 feet before a hand closed around her arm and yanked her backward into the dark. A second hand clamped over her mouth before the scream could fully leave her throat. She was dragged off the sidewalk, into the black gap between 2 houses, a pocket of darkness where no streetlight reached and no window looked down. She fought, kicked, twisted her body and sank her teeth into the hand pressed against her lips. It didn't matter. Whoever had her was stronger. Much stronger. Her purse hit the pavement. Its contents scattered. Wallet, keys, lipstick, a hair tie. A small constellation of everyday objects that would soon become the only evidence anyone would ever find. The last thing Lauren Hayes saw, before the darkness swallowed her completely, was the soft yellow glow of her own porch light. 30 seconds away. Maybe less. Inside that house, her mother was watching the clock. 11:55. Asterisk she should have been home by now. Asterisk. 11:57. Tom said maybe she'd stop to chat with someone. You know how Lauren was, always talking to everyone she passed. 11:58. Margaret went to the window. The street was empty. Midnight came. Fireworks cracked open the sky over Bridgewater. Somewhere, people were cheering, kissing, hugging strangers. In the Hayes living room, Margaret felt something colder than worry settle into her chest. By 12:15, Tom had walked the block twice, calling his daughter's name into the dark, and found nothing but silence. By 12:15, Margaret's hands were shaking too hard to dial 911 on the first try. 25 years on the police force had trained Tom for exactly this moment, and nothing could have prepared him for it. He knew not to touch anything. He knew how to preserve a scene. So when he found his daughter's purse lying between 2 dark houses, contents scattered across the pavement like a puzzle no one wanted to solve, he didn't move a single item. He just stood there, staring, feeling something inside him break quietly in half. By 12:30, his former colleagues were combing Cedar Lane with flashlights. By 1 a.m., the scene had been photographed, a wallet still stuffed with cash, keys glinting on the concrete, a cell phone with its screen shattered into a spiderweb of cracks. By 2 a.m., the police chief, Tom's old partner of 10 years, was standing in the Hayes living room, forced to say the words no father ever wants to hear about his daughter. Abduction. Tom already knew. He'd known the second he saw that purse. By dawn, the FBI was involved. A special agent flew in from Austin and set up a command post at the police station. By morning, Lauren's face was on every television screen in the state. 23 years old. Brown hair. Hazel eyes. Last seen leaving the diner at 9:50 p.m., wearing a green sweater and a black winter coat that would never be found. Rita told police about the man from the counter, the regular with no name, the one who left right before Lauren's shift ended. Investigators pulled the diner's security tape. Grainy. Black and white. A man in a baseball cap, face mostly hidden, dark hair, medium build, somewhere between 30 and 50. It was broadcast across the state. Tips flooded in by the hundreds. Every single one led exactly nowhere. Margaret kept whispering the same 4 words for days. Asterisk she was so close to asterisk so close to home. So close to safety. So close that 30 more seconds would have changed everything. Tom stayed quiet. He'd worked enough missing persons cases to know that what if was a door that never opened, no matter how many times you knocked. But late at night, when Margaret finally cried herself into an exhausted sleep, he would stand outside his daughter's bedroom door and feel the weight of every family he had ever had to deliver bad news to. Now he understood, from the inside, exactly how impossible that news was to survive. He knew the statistics better than anyone. If an abducted adult isn't found within 48 hours, the odds collapse. And the 48 hours came and went with nothing. No suspect. No sighting. No body. Just a scattered purse and a smashed phone lying on a strip of sidewalk between two houses whose elderly residents had already been asleep and heard absolutely nothing. By the end of the first week, news vans stopped circling the block. By the end of the first month, daily briefings from the police chief shrank into weekly phone calls that all said the same hollow thing. Asterisk still investigating. Still no leads. We haven't given up. Asterisk Tom heard what that really meant. He'd said those same words to other families himself, years earlier, back when he was the one standing on the other side of the door. Margaret refused to let it die quietly. She printed flyers, Lauren's senior photo smiling out from beneath bold black letters, and drove them to every town within 100 miles. Gas stations, grocery store corkboards, diners just like the one her daughter used to work in. Most people took a flyer, nodded politely, and let it slip into a trash can an hour later. A few promised to keep an eye out. None of them ever called. By spring, Margaret had started a support group in the basement of their church, a room full of strangers bound together by the singular, unbearable torture of not knowing. Tom went once. Never went back. Said he couldn't survive hearing anyone else's grief on top of his own. The investigator who'd once been Tom's partner kept the file open, technically, but by summer the leads had dried into nothing. The man from the diner tape was never identified, the footage too grainy, the description too generic to be anything more than a shadow with a baseball cap. Detectives had knocked on every door on oak, elm, maple, and cedar. Nobody had heard a scream. Nobody had seen a struggle. Whoever took Lauren Hayes had chosen his spot with terrifying precision. A blind gap between porch lights, invisible from every neighboring window, the one dead patch of darkness on a street she walked home every single night. It wasn't random. It couldn't have been. Someone had watched her, learned her route, learned exactly when, and exactly where, the dark would hide him. And by the time the first anniversary of that New Year's Eve arrived, the file marked asterisk Lauren Hayes asterisk was quietly reclassified, inactive. It didn't mean the case was closed. It meant, for everyone except her mother, it was already over. Grief doesn't end. It just changes shape. For Margaret and Tom Hayes, the years after that first anniversary blurred into something almost unrecognizable as a life. Margaret kept teaching, kept showing up to work every morning because staying home meant staring at a closed bedroom door. Tom kept his job at the high school, kept the uniform pressed, kept the same steady face he'd worn through 25 years on the force, even though inside, something had gone permanently quiet. They kept Lauren's room exactly as she'd left it. Lesson plans still scattered across her desk from that first, unfinished semester. The church outfit still hanging on the closet door. The bed still unmade from the morning of December 31st, 2000. Though Margaret changed the sheets once a month anyway. Out of habit, out of hope, out of some quiet refusal to let the room feel abandoned. Holidays became something to survive rather than celebrate. Every December 31st, Margaret took a sleeping pill before 9 o'clock so she wouldn't be conscious when midnight arrived. Every June, on Lauren's birthday, she baked a cake anyway. Lit the candles, sang to an empty kitchen, and blew them out herself. 24, 25, 26. Each year added a new candle to a cake nobody would ever eat. Tom started drinking a little more than he should have. Not enough to be obvious. Just enough to blur the edges of a pain that never seemed to dull no matter how much time passed. Margaret noticed the bottles piling up in the recycling bin and said nothing, because she understood they were each drowning, quietly, in their own private ocean, even while sharing the same house. By the time 5 years had passed, Bridgewater had turned Lauren into folklore. The teacher who vanished on New Year's Eve. A cautionary tale parents used to warn their daughters about walking home alone. But Margaret never let it become a story. Every few months, she updated the flyers with an age-progressed photo. Lauren at 25, at 28, at 30, each version a stranger built from algorithms and guesswork. A face Margaret had never actually seen but forced herself to memorize anyway. Every Sunday after church, she drove to a different town, handed out flyers, asked the same questions to strangers who'd already forgotten the flyer from last time, came home each week with nothing but an empty gas tank and a heart a little more worn down than before. Tom stopped going with her after the first year. He said it hurt too much. Margaret went alone, every single week, for a decade. By 2010, Lauren would have been 33 years old, if she was even still alive to have a birthday at all. Margaret's hair had gone completely grey. Tom had retired for good, spending his days in front of the television, avoiding any conversation that might lead back to the one subject they both stopped being able to talk about out loud. They had said everything there was to say, 1,000 times over, until the words themselves stopped meaning anything. 300 miles away, in a quiet apartment in Dallas, a woman in her early 30s sat in a dim room, staring at a blank page, trying, again, to remember anything at all from before the year 2008. She had no childhood to speak of, no family photos, no name that felt like it belonged to her, just a scar hidden beneath her hairline, a diagnosis she'd memorized like a foreign language, and 7 years of therapy that had gotten her exactly nowhere. She called herself Rachel Morrison. It was the only name she had ever known. And she had absolutely no idea that 300 miles away, a mother was still driving from town to town, still taping up flyers with a stranger's face on them. A face that, underneath 15 years and a small mountain of forgotten memory, was actually her own. Rachel's earliest memory began in a hospital bed in January of 2001, waking up to fluorescent lights and a face full of bandages, with no idea who she was. Doctors called it retrograde amnesia, the result of severe head trauma so violent it had physically damaged the parts of her brain where long-term memories are stored. She'd been found unconscious near a hospital entrance in Dallas, with no ID, no purse, no phone. No one had come forward. No one had reported her missing. She spent 6 months as a Jane Doe before social services finally built her an identity from scratch and gave her a name to carry forward, Rachel Morrison. For 14 years, that name was the only foundation she had. She built a life on top of it, a job as a bookkeeper, a quiet apartment, a routine that felt safe precisely because it asked nothing of a past she didn't have. But underneath the routine, something never stopped gnawing at her. A sense that she was living someone else's life. That somewhere beneath the amnesia, a different person was still buried, still trying to claw her way to the surface. Her therapist, Dr. Patricia Chen, had tried everything over the years: hypnosis, guided memory exercises, photo prompts. Nothing worked, not fully. Occasionally a fragment would surface, a smell, a sound, a flash of color, and vanish before Rachel could hold on to it long enough to understand what it meant. Was it a real memory clawing its way back? Or was it just her mind inventing a past to fill a void too painful to leave empty? In 2014, Dr. Chen suggested something different. Speak it out loud. Record her thoughts. Sometimes, she said, voicing the fragments helps access what writing them down can't reach. So Rachel began recording herself, late at night, into a cheap microphone, talking about the dreams that felt too vivid to be invented. A yellow house. The smell of chalk dust. A woman's laugh that made her feel, for reasons she couldn't explain, completely safe. By January 2015, on her therapist's encouragement, she uploaded the first recording to YouTube. She called the channel *fragment star. No face on camera, just her voice, drifting over slow-moving clouds and quiet nature scenes, talking about what it feels like to wake up as a stranger to yourself. About the particular terror of looking in a mirror and seeing no one you recognize. About building an identity out of absolutely nothing. The channel never grew large. Maybe 300 subscribers, most of them strangers dealing with memory loss of their own, drawn to a voice that understood exactly what they were going through. Every week, Rachel posted something new. The hard days when the amnesia felt like drowning, and the smaller days when her hands remembered how to do something her mind couldn't explain. She had no way of knowing that one of those 300 people would end up being her mother. And 300 miles away, in October of 2015, Margaret Hayes sat down at her computer to fold laundry and clear her head, and let YouTube's algorithm quietly hand her the one video that would undo 15 years of silence in the span of a single, ordinary afternoon. Margaret wasn't looking for anything meaningful. She just wanted noise. Cooking videos, garden tours, anything loud enough to drown out a house that had been quiet for 15 years. She clicked without thinking, the way people do 100 times a day, and let the algorithm hand her whatever it wanted. It handed her *fragment star. No face. Just a still image of drifting clouds, and underneath it, a woman's voice, calm, thoughtful, carrying the faint, unmistakable pull of a Texas drawl. Margaret kept folding laundry, only half listening, until the woman said something about waking up with no past. About feeling like a stranger in her own mirror. Margaret's hands went still. She told herself it was nothing. Voices were common. Half of Texas sounded like this. But she rewound the video anyway, and listened again, closer this time. Not to the words. To the asterisk rhythm star. The way the woman paused between thoughts. The way certain syllables softened, almost imperceptibly. Exactly the way they used to in a voice Margaret hadn't heard in 15 years. Her heart wouldn't slow down. She clicked into another video. Then another. Then another. The woman spoke about a car accident in 2000. About waking up with no ID, no memory, no name of her own. About fragments that surface sometimes. Teaching children, second graders specifically, the smell of chalk dust clinging to her fingers in a memory she couldn't place. Lauren had taught second grade. For one semester. Before she vanished. Margaret's hands were shaking so badly she nearly dropped the laptop. She told herself she was reaching, that after 15 years of grief, she trained herself to see her daughter in every stranger who came close enough. She'd done it before. A woman's laugh in a grocery store. A face in a crowd. A profile picture on someone else's Facebook page. Every time, it had been nothing. Every time, the hope had cracked her open all over again. But this voice wouldn't let her go. By the time Tom came home from his walk, Margaret hadn't moved from the computer chair in over 2 hours. Tears streaked down her face, and when he stepped into the doorway, she looked up at him with an expression he hadn't seen in over a decade. "I found her," she whispered. "Tom, I think I found our daughter." Tom felt his stomach drop straight through the floor. He'd watched this exact scene play out a dozen times over 15 years, and every single time, it had ended the same way. With Margaret's hope shattering into pieces, he had to help her sweep up. He wanted, desperately, to protect her from another collapse. But some quiet, stubborn part of him had never fully accepted that Lauren was gone either. "What did you find?" he asked, careful to keep his voice flat, neutral, a cop's voice, trained not to add weight to something that might be nothing. She turned the screen toward him and pressed play. He listened for 30 seconds. Told himself it was just a voice, one of thousands of women in Texas who happened to share the same accent, the same soft cadence. His training kicked in, the same instinct that had kept him steady through 25 years on the force. Don't believe what you want to believe. Believe what you can prove. Margaret, no. Listen to it. Really listen. He did. And somewhere around the third video, something in his chest quietly cracked open. It wasn't any single word. It was the asterisk pattern asterisk, the small pauses, the particular way this stranger's voice caught on certain phrases, the same tiny verbal habits Lauren used to have and Tom had spent 15 years trying to forget. "It's her," Margaret said, and this time there was no question in her voice at all. "I know it's her." Tom wanted to believe it so badly it physically hurt. But he'd built a career on the wreckage of families who mistook coincidence for certainty. "It sounds like her," he admitted carefully. "That doesn't mean it asterisk is asterisk her." By the sixth video, he wasn't so sure anymore. "We need to go to the police," Margaret said. Tom shook his head slowly. "A voice on YouTube isn't evidence. They won't touch this." He sat in silence for a long moment, staring at the paused video, at a woman's silhouette he might have just spent 15 years searching for without knowing it. Then he said the only thing that made sense to a man who'd spent his whole life solving problems quietly, carefully, off the books first. "We hire someone." His name was James Reeves, a private investigator who'd worked alongside Tom back when Tom still wore the badge. If anyone could trace an anonymous YouTube channel back to a real person without spooking her into disappearing again, it was him. Tom called the next morning, laid out everything, tried to sound calmer than he felt. Reeves promised to look into it. Said it would take a few days. Those few days felt endless. Margaret barely slept, barely ate, spending every waking hour replaying the videos, memorizing every inflection, convinced beyond reason that she was listening to her daughter's voice for the first time in a decade and a half. Tom tried to stay grounded, tried to keep both feet in reality. But late at night, alone with the recordings, he felt something he hadn't let himself feel in years. Hope. Fragile, terrifying hope. 5 days later, Reeves called with an answer that changed everything. The channel belonged to a 35-year-old bookkeeper in Dallas named Rachel Morrison. No social media beyond the one YouTube channel. No photographs anywhere online. A woman who valued her privacy the way people do when they have something to hide, or something they're desperately trying to protect. But it was the next detail that made Tom's hands go cold. According to every public record Reeves could find, Rachel Morrison didn't exist before the year 2001. No birth certificate. No school transcripts. No employment history of any kind. She hadn't been born. She had simply appeared as if a whole person had been assembled, piece by piece, out of nothing at all. Reeves kept digging, and what he found stopped Tom cold in a way that 15 years on the force never had. On January 3, 2001, just 3 days after Lauren Hayes vanished into the dark on Cedar Lane, a woman had been found unconscious near the entrance of a Dallas hospital. No ID, no purse, no phone. No one had brought her in, and no one ever came forward. Whoever left her there had vanished into the night just as completely as she had. She'd been in a coma for 3 days. When she finally woke, she remembered nothing. Not her name, not her face, not a single hour of the life she'd lived before that moment. Doctors ran her fingerprints, checked dental records. Nothing matched anything in any system. For 6 months she existed only as a number on a hospital chart, Jane Doe. Eventually, social workers built her a new identity from the ground up and handed her a name to wear like borrowed clothes. Rachel Morrison. 300 miles from Bridgewater. 3 days after the abduction. A head injury so severe it had erased 15 years of a life before anyone even had the chance to live it. Tom's hands wouldn't stop shaking as he hung up the phone. Margaret was already reaching for her coat. "We need to go to her. Right now." "We can't just show up," Tom said, forcing his voice steady even as his heart hammered. "If this is her, if she really doesn't remember us, we could shatter whatever peace she's managed to build. We do this carefully." Reeves made the first approach. He told Rachel, gently, that a family in a small Texas town believed she might be the daughter they'd lost 15 years earlier. He showed her photographs, a young woman on graduation day, a bright classroom full of construction paper sons, a smiling face at a family dinner table. Rachel stared at the photos for a long time. Said the face felt familiar, but she couldn't tell if that was memory or just her mind desperately searching for somewhere to belong. Still, she agreed to meet. The following Saturday, Margaret and Tom drove the 2 hours to Dallas in near total silence, both of them too terrified to hope out loud. They arrived at a small coffee shop 30 minutes early and sat with untouched cups slowly going cold, watching the door like it was the only thing left in the world. At exactly 2 o'clock, a woman walked in. Brown hair, medium height. A cautious, searching look on her face as her eyes swept the room. Margaret stopped breathing. The face was older, different, in the way 15 hard years change a person. But the eyes, the exact way they moved when she was uncertain. Margaret knew, in her bones, before a single word was spoken. It was Lauren. The woman sat down across from them, wary, guarded. "I'm Rachel Morrison," she said quietly. "Or, at least, that's who I've been for the last 14 years. Margaret's hands were shaking too hard to lift her coffee cup. "I'm Margaret Hayes. This is my husband, Tom. Our daughter Lauren disappeared on New Year's Eve, in the year 2000. She was 23. We never stopped looking for her." "I don't remember being her," Rachel said. "I don't remember you at all." "We know," Tom said gently. "We're not asking you to remember. We just want to understand what happened." And slowly, carefully, across a table of cold coffee in a Dallas cafe, a mother began describing a yellow house on Cedar Lane, and watched a stranger's breath catch, as though some locked door deep inside her had just creaked open a single, unbearable inch. "I dreamed about that house," Rachel whispered. "I thought I made it up." The DNA results came back 3 agonizing days later. 99.9% match. Rachel Morrison was Lauren Hayes. Margaret collapsed into Tom's arms right there in the hotel room, 15 years of grief breaking open all at once, not just as relief, but as something far more complicated. Their daughter was alive. Their daughter had been alive the entire time, living 300 miles away, working as a bookkeeper, with absolutely no idea who she truly was. But the joy came with a devastating catch. Brain scans confirmed what doctors had suspected back in 2001. The trauma had permanently destroyed the neural pathways that stored her long-term memories. She might get flashes, fragments, a feeling here, a scent there. But the neurologists were clear, Lauren would likely never remember her childhood, her parents, her classroom, or the walk home that changed everything. The daughter Margaret and Tom had spent 15 years searching for had been found, and was still, in the ways that mattered most, gone. The FBI reopened the case. Hospital records confirmed Lauren had been admitted with injuries consistent with a violent, high-speed impact. Yet no accident had ever been reported, no vehicle ever found. The leading theory was as simple as it was horrifying. Her abductor had been driving her somewhere when something went wrong. A crash. A panic. And rather than risk being caught with a dying woman in his car, he'd left her at the nearest hospital and vanished into the night, never to be seen again. No footage remained. No witnesses ever came forward. 15 years had turned every trace of him to dust. The man who took Lauren Hayes was never identified, never arrested, never made to answer for a single day of the 15 years he stole. Margaret struggled with that more than almost anything else, wanting someone to blame, someone to punish, some kind of justice to close the wound. But Tom, who had spent 25 years learning exactly how many cases go unsolved, understood something harder to accept. Sometimes peace has to exist without justice, because justice simply never comes. Over the following months, Margaret sat with her daughter for hours at a time, showing her photo albums, telling her stories about the little girl who never stopped asking questions and the young woman who wanted to shape young minds one classroom at a time. Lauren listened, asked questions, tried to feel the memories rather than simply learn them as facts. Most of the time, they remained just that, facts, about a stranger she used to be. She kept her job in Dallas, kept the name Rachel, because it was the only name that had ever truly belonged to her. But once a month, she made the drive back to Bridgewater, to the yellow house on Cedar Lane, to dinners with two people who were technically strangers but had never once stopped loving her. On New Year's Eve, 2016, the three of them sat together in that same living room, watching the ball drop, toasting with sparkling cider, exactly like they used to. Lauren didn't remember a single New Year's Eve before this one. But she was there. And somehow, after everything, that had to be enough. "I'm glad you found me," she said quietly. "Even if I can't remember, I'm glad I know where I came from." Margaret squeezed her hand and said the only thing that had ever really been true. "We never stopped looking. Not for one single day."